Hi, this is Navdeep from Delhi Immigration Services. Today we have an applicant with us who got the Canada study visa after 3 refusals, a program change, and also 4 unfinished academic attempts in Europe. And we'll just talk to her and see how her overall profile is and how she has become a successful candidate. Hi, Miss. First of all, many congratulations. Very happy that
Thank
eventually it
you.
happened. Can you talk us through your academic background overall, the 10th, 12th, and then further you also went to Europe, 4 times. So can you just talk us through that one by one if possible?
Yeah, I graduated grade 10 in 2010, I want to say, and 2011 I graduated, and then grade 12 was 2013. So I went to university the first time in 2013, and that was in the UK. And
For which program?
I went to
Sorry.
the UK. So I went for psychology,
Psychology.
and
Okay.
then I went again to the UK after a year for LLB, so law.
Yeah.
And
But,
both times it
but
was
first,
because I was advised.
yeah, I'm so sorry to interrupt. So first program you sort of left it in between because you probably didn't like it or you had other preferences, and then you.
Yeah, it wasn't that I didn't like it. It was I already had studied psychology in school for 2 years,
Yeah.
and it was the same exact thing. It wasn't anything different, and
Okay.
I wasn't satisfied more than anything else. And also, I didn't want to study that to begin with. But at the time, I was really young. Like, I was just out of school, so I was just 18. And I wanted to study fashion photography. But, when you're applying, you always do it like through an agent or like through an organization or something. And I don't know what it's like in other countries or what it was like back then, but it, at least in my experience, I was led to believe that fashion is not going to lead to anything. It's not a career. This is like more of a hobby, and you shouldn't be like studying it in university. And even though I was really passionate about it, it's different when it's like, okay, how do I make this into a career, and you don't even have enough information. Um, because at that time, I mean, we had the internet, but it wasn't as big as it is now, and the information wasn't in your face. You kind of had to go out there and look for yourself.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to career, you kind of have to do that anyway.
Yeah.
So I went against my better judgment, or like lack of one back then. And yeah, I did psychology. I wasn't satisfied, so I was like, before this starts taking a mental toll on me, or like an emotional toll on me, I should like take
Yeah.
a step back, reevaluate,
Yeah.
figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
So I
So
came back to India. I spoke to my parents,
yeah. Yeah.
and they were nice enough. They didn't say like, "Oh, you have to do it" or anything. That there was no pressure. But I mean, I don't even think it was pressure. It was more just them having concern for like my future, and it was just like, oh, like do something that's actually going to benefit you in a in the form of a career later on. So yeah, that was that. And then I came back again. I wanted to do fashion photography, but it was difficult to explain to people like how I was going to monetize that, especially.
Yeah.
And
And we're
I don't
talking
think
in
back then.
2014. That's in 2014. Yeah. I mean, that's when you were trying to kind of convince.
Yes, yeah. So I came back in 2014.
Yeah.
And I went again in 2015, and I went to study law.
So,
Um, Also because I have a background where I know a lot of people who in my family who've done law, who are lawyers, who are working, in the legal field.
yeah.
And so it was, again, it was a lot of opinions. And like I said, like I was too young. I didn't know how to decipher like what I needed.
Yeah.
And what people were telling me was good for me. And so I was like, okay, it's fine. And I mean, it doesn't take a genius to know that as Asians or like South Asians, we kind of grow up hearing doctor, engineer, lawyer. Like there's nothing beyond that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's what happened. And then I went for law, and I was doing great. I was getting the grades. I was a good student, all of that. But again, there was something missing, and that I wasn't fulfilled. I was doing everything else to like fulfill everybody else's wishes. But even though that was not something that people expected, people like, at least in my opinion, my parents never like did that to me. But for whatever reason, I was unable to voice it at the time. But finally, I did speak to my parents after like a year. So I want to say like late 2016.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, like I'm getting the grades, like everything's fine, but I just can't. Like, this is not, because I understand that their concern was like, okay, monetarily you're good. It's a good career. You'll have a good reputation in society, etc. But I was like, okay, but what is the guarantee that I'm going to be successful? I could just end up being mediocre, because that is a very big possibility also. And so finally, I convinced my parents to, like, allow me to at least give what I want to do a try. And so I left law school and I came to India, and I applied to a fashion photography program in Italy. And I got in, I think I got in with scholarship. So also all of these places that I got in with scholarship, all of them.
Wow.
And so I went to Italy. I was doing great. Everything was great. Everything was amazing. Everything was on track. But for people who don't know, like, when you're in Italy, you need to apply for a resident permit when you arrive in Italy. And once you get that, that's usually valid for the duration of your studies. But Italy only gives you a 1-year visa at a time, at least for the student visa. I don't know about the other ones. So I applied for that, and I went to the local police station or the bureaucratic office for my appointment. I got my appointment. They had my documents. For whatever reason, something happened with their system and they lost my documents. And I was there for, I want to say, 6 or 7 hours. So the entirety of the day I was there. My number was not called, and I was fluent enough in Italian that I could get by on the average day. So I knew enough of the language to at least make small talk with people, to get them to a place for them to understand that, oh, hey, you know what? I'm not that comfortable with Italian, but I'll give it a try if you can't speak English.
Got it.
So I was good with numbers, and I understand Italian numbers. So if my number would have been called, I would have understood it. My number was not called. I went up to them later on, and I was like, oh, listen, I was here for this, and my number was never called. They spoke with themselves, amongst themselves, for, I want to say, some 20 minutes. And they were like, yeah, I don't know, like, we can't find your file in our system. So, like, you'll have to try again. Now, the thing with that is, I got in touch with local lawyers in the area, one of the biggest firms in Italy and Europe, actually. And basically, what I was told was that now in the system, it shows that you've already applied to get this residence permit, irrespective of whether or not you have the physical,
File.
yeah, whatever, the physical form of the residence permit. So what you can't apply for another one until this one expires, which at the time was going to expire in 3 years, because that's how long my course was for, the duration of the course. So without that residence permit, you can't be allowed to graduate to year 2, because the local embassy is not going to issue you a second year visa. So even if I came back to India and I applied for another visa to start again, that wouldn't help, because all I would be doing is going back again and again and again, and only doing one.
Got it.
So, against no fault of my own, I tried, I wrote emails, I contacted the embassy, I contacted the local bureaucracy, not just through myself, but also through, like, local lawyers in the area. And, I tried to get this into the court so that they could sort it out, but it just never panned out. And yeah, so for that reason, again, I had to come back. But that was through no fault of my own.
Yeah.
That was just pure circumstantial, just mishaps.
Yeah.
So after that, I started working freelance, and I was working in Dubai, I was working in Singapore, and like a few other countries around the world, and with independent makeup artists, models, etc., to build my portfolio. And there was no monetary exchange, because this was just purely just like a collaboration. And based on my portfolio in 2019, I applied to a school again in Paris, and I got in. And it's really difficult to get into that school. It's like one of the top 5 schools in the world for fashion photography.
Wow.
And I got in again. I got scholarship, all of that. It was great. I got my visa. I was in Paris. Everything is fantastic. There's no problem with the bureaucracy. There's no problem with the visa. There's no problem with the grades. There's no problem with nothing. And then 2020, COVID happens.
Yeah.
And I had to come back to India, because my parents were like, listen, we can't come there, and you won't be able to come here if something happens. And also, we don't know the local language. Like I'm fluent in French, so like that's fine. But they were like, we don't know the local language, and also when stuff does start to gain momentum again, countries are going to be prioritizing their citizens and residents first, not students.
Every country.
Because you're not a resident, you're a temporary resident.
Yes.
And so, maybe it's a good idea for you to come back. Now I did. And I still had online classes. I was doing the online classes, but here's the kicker. I couldn't give my exams because I was studying fashion photography, and our exams are in studio because we have to it's photographic. So like everything's in studio. There's like very little theory. And so I couldn't do that because my exams were supposed to be, I want to say in April or May. And that's when this whole thing was just going off the rails. And, they were obviously nobody had dealt with this before. So they did postpone it to October. And I spoke to them. I wrote emails. I was like, listen, I'm talking to the local embassy, the French embassy here. I have my tickets booked. But literally the airlines kept pushing it back. Like every day I would get an email being like, oh, your flight is cancelled. Oh, it's like rebooked for this date, which is like a month away. And that kept happening. And the embassy was like, yeah, we're thinking of opening now. And then that day would come closer and they're like, yeah, sorry, we're not. And then now, and then, yeah, sorry, we're not. And it just kept just snowballing. And October came and went, stuff got worse. 2021 happened, stuff got worse. So, and each country was hit like at a different time. It wasn't happening all at the same time in like all places. Yeah. So, basically that was a situation that was completely out of our control. Yeah. And no one could have seen it coming. And we were like, I'm not just like myself, but literally everybody was caught off guard.
Absolutely.
And, so it was just one of those things where like so things just happened.
Yeah. So then you were in India, afterwards, and at least from 2020 onwards, and then you again, got back to your photography, assignment. Then you started working with, I think, Dubai-based company. Yeah. So
no, so I So in 2021, I applied for my Canadian visa because I wanted to finish my education, and going to Paris was looking very, very slim. The chances were next to none. And the embassy had said that, like, yeah, you know what, we're not going to open visas anytime soon. Yeah. And I was looking online, and Canada was one of the places that had visa dates available, and they were accepting international students. And I mean, everybody knows that Canada is one of the highest educational just values in the world, and also getting any sort of diploma or certificate or an undergrad or master's from Canada guarantees that you'll probably get a job like anywhere in the world, but especially in Commonwealth countries, and India just happens to be one of those. So, I mean, that's just another added bonus. But yeah, Canada's like education is just amazing. There's just no comparison. Like, America, Canada, it's great. And so
you applied for, I guess, digital photography program, if I'm not wrong.
I applied for photography. But I was actually wanting to apply for something that was creative, but also closely linked to business in a way. I just at that time probably couldn't explain what exactly that was. And so I, like I've said, contacted somebody, because you kind of have to do this through agents. Yeah. And this person said, oh, because you have like a history of doing like photography, like you should go for photography. And I was like, well, yeah, I could. But like at this point, I had been working as a photographer in the field. Like I'd done certain really big shows around the world. And, I'd worked with magazines and brands, etc. And so I was like, do I or don't I? Like, I don't think I necessarily need to get into the creative side of it anymore. But it was, again, one of those things. And that time also was just so emotionally charged.
And so was it that you felt that you may have already learned those skills through your experience already, which you had until then?
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a digital, there was a digital diploma, digital photography program at Vancouver, some college in Vancouver.
Yes, yeah. It was in Vancouver. And, I applied and everything was fine. But for whatever reason, there was a like a visa assistance that they offered, which was like a local agent who helped you like put your file together and everything. And looking back, I knew that that person was not going to be capable of explaining like my history. Um, and also, people just look at a gap and assume that you're lazy. They assume that you're not serious. They assume that like something is wrong with you. Like, you know, there needs to be like a red mark on your name and like you're a red flag. That's not true. So that's what happened. Like it was just like a mishandling of information. um
So,
there was a lack of understanding, and there was a lack of being able to explain or articulate it in the way that IRCC would be like, okay, this is what happened, this makes sense. So it was more just all over the place, like, you know, yeah, this happened, that happened, blah blah blah, blah, like
yeah,
here I am.
yeah.
So they were like, yeah, okay, but that doesn't make sense. So it wasn't, again, looking back, it's not that IRCC is like, no. They're like, okay, maybe not right now. If you can explain better, sure. And that's what happened. So that happened twice because for the same school, I deferred the intake and I applied again and I provided more information. But, you know, it was not successful.
So you reapplied through the same consultancy again? I mean, same person did the second
It wasn't a consultancy. It was an agent that the school provided.
Okay. Okay.
So it was somebody who was on their retainer.
Okay. Got it. So, so two refusals happened. Then you probably got the refund, I guess. You got a withdrawn.
I did get the refund. That was not an issue at all. I mean, they kept some of it. I don't exactly remember how much they kept, but it was maybe like 10% or something they kept. But I got like pretty much all of it back. Yeah. And then afterwards, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm kind of like gonna put this on hold. Like, I'm just gonna focus on life. And so I was looking at just like as a photographer also, a lot of software that we use is like Photoshop and Lightroom, etc. And Photoshop also coincides with a lot of graphic design, and I do really like that side of Photoshop, but I didn't understand like InDesign and you know, the other graphic designing apps like Corel Draw and all that. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this because it's basically the same, but it adds a layer onto what you can provide. And so I did a 6-month program in graphic design, which was like an accelerated course. And
India, was it?
Right after that, yeah, it was from Delhi.
From Delhi.
And yeah, and I got I was like a straight A student. And
was it a few months program or a year program? I think
it was 6 months.
6 months program. Okay.
Yeah, so it was accelerated. And then right after I got out of school, I got an internship with a company in Dubai. And after 6 months, they offered me a full-time position, and they even offered me a work visa so I could move to Dubai. But I refused relocation because honestly, I don't want to relocate. Like I'm good in India. Like I'm happy with my life. I have everything that I could ever want. And relocation was never anything that I wanted. Every time that I've gone abroad is for education. I don't want to live abroad. Like I'm good here, you know, I'm taken care of. I'm like, I'll just say I'm good. That's it.
I can understand.
Yeah, so I got that job. I've been working at that company for 2 years. And then I really wanted to like, I mean, from the beginning, my whole goal was to start my own agency. So whether it was like to sign other photographers and, you know, other creatives, or it was now that I had graphic design under my belt, I was like, okay, you know what? I can offer services in graphic design and like a whole kind of well-rounded agency that provides you not just photography services, but also like graphic design and, you know, business side of things and all of that. But like, how do you do that? Because you don't just start a company because it came into your head. Like you need formal education in the side of business. And that is what I wanted to do when I first applied, but I just didn't know what I wanted at the time. But then I was looking and I came across like fashion marketing, which I mean, you have to, as a freelancer, you have to market yourself. Yeah, as a content creator, you have to market yourself. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, this is like
KPU. That's at KPU that you found.
Yes, yeah. So I found it and I was like, this seems really interesting. Also because it's not just theory based. Like as part of their program, they have work experience that you have to do. So it's very real world centric. It's very like hands on, very practical, as well as being theory based. And I just found that to be really different because in India, first of all, I can't study in India because I'm over the age of 25. And for some reason, I don't know why, but people think that age has something to do with education, which I mean, the only constant after we're born is the fact that we keep learning and growing. So that makes no sense to me. Like, I don't think learning should have an age.
Absolutely.
And then in India, from my experience, I could be wrong, but this is just my experience. I feel like other than engineering and medical, everything else is just theory based. And the only reason why medical and engineering have practical and theory is because it's necessary. So yeah, it was just like nothing else seemed to make, or like not make, but like seemed to be anywhere close to what like KPU was offering. And I don't know, there was just something inside me that was like, you know what, I should apply. What's the worst that can happen? Like they'll say no. Okay, I have nothing to lose then.
Yeah.
So I applied, and I didn't even know that there was so
you applied for admission on your own first.
Yeah. I applied on my own.
You got the admission letter. You got the acceptance.
Yeah.
And
I didn't even know that there was early admissions. Somebody from the department told me that, you know, there's early admissions, apply by this time in December, and like early January, you'll have an answer from us, or like mid-January.
Got it.
And because I was under the impression that I have to apply by like February to get an answer. So I applied and I got an answer and I got in. And I, at that time, was on holiday in another country. I was visiting my family. And I was shocked because I was like, yeah, okay, you know, I just applied. Like, I have no expectations. So I got in and I was so excited. And then obviously at that point, you're like, okay, you know what? Now I have to apply for a visa. And even though, I mean, I personally don't believe this, that like the past can like hold you back, because nothing can hold you back. But it's still like there in the back of your head.
Yeah,
so and in the past also, I did have an experience where I had contacted a consultant and it turned out to be not great. I was out of money. Yeah, I was due out of money. It was really horrible. And yeah, it was, I mean, that kind of makes you feel like really vulnerable.
Scared.
So I was really reluctant to like contact someone, or like, you know, and also it's not even that I was reluctant, it's like, who do you contact? Who is the right person? Like, you just don't know. And so someone I know mentioned you and Delhi Immigration Services, and this person, like, you know, it's a friend of mine, so I did ask them if they were like absolutely sure, and they're like, yeah, like, you know, I too had 2 refusals, and yeah, like, you know, you won't find a better person. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll give it a go. And I did look up the page on like Instagram, and you know, and then I believe I spoke to you on the phone and then came to meet you. And yeah, I mean, from the first meeting itself, I was like, compared to previous people, it was a huge difference, because like, it wasn't just that you were telling me what I wanted to hear, but like, you genuinely knew what you were saying. And also, you weren't afraid to like tell me, oh, this might be better. Because a lot of the times people are like, okay, yeah, you know what, I'll just do it according to you, because why argue? And then we'll see. But you were like, no, I think like this is better because of this, this, and this. And it was all like very, very rooted in logic and just real life, how things work out. And I'm really glad that I listened, which I mean, I would have, but I'm just really glad. And even though the first time that we applied, which was technically overall the third time, was a refusal, I don't believe that was for any fault of our own. But for whatever reason, the file was overlooked, or was like briefly looked at and wasn't really understood by the person, which I mean happens to the best of us. We're all human. And we did put in a reconsideration, which, I mean, they have a right to decline that, and they did.
Yeah.
But we provided more information. And luckily, I found those emails where I had turned down my boss's offer to relocate to Dubai and a few other things, which are personal, so I won't like talk about it here. But yeah, like a few other things, and it was approved. So to anybody like who's listening, who thinks like, the world's come to an end and like it's never gonna happen, like it absolutely can happen. I'm telling you, I am the example. It can absolutely happen. I've been there. I've been there where it was like, yeah, I don't know, the world is against me, and like I don't know why, like the visa officer hates me or whatever. Like they don't hate you, they're just human. Like all they're saying is explain it better. That's it. Even if someone's like, oh, I'm not convinced, blah blah blah, it's refused, don't take it personally, just read between the lines. All they're saying it, I'm not convinced, so convince me and you'll get it. That's it. And then, I mean, except for all of that, it's also how you present your file. I feel like you did a fantastic job with that. I definitely could not have come up with that on my own.
So this
And
application, I think overall, I mean, with some more, explanation to appeal or to probably confront the officer or to get more attention of the officer. So I think same application we did again, and
yeah,
and then how much time it took this time? The second time?
it was just over 15 days. So I want to say it was somewhere in the vicinity of 15 to 20 days. But I think that's probably also because we entered the month of June, and that can get really just
Okay. What are you
very, very heavy workload.
Got it.
Sorry.
So, were you expecting this time that it will happen? Did you have any hope during the entire process, or you were just giving it a shot and you were obviously we were prepared when we already have faced a lot of rejection.
I think it was a bit of both, where it wasn't like expectation, like if this doesn't happen, my life is ruined.
Yeah.
But also on the other side, like I had belief that if it has to happen, it will happen.
Okay.
There's no way around it.
Got it. What were you doing when you heard about the update? You received an email and you definitely
So I received the email at 2 a.m. So obviously I was sleeping then. But I saw it in the morning around 8:30 or 9 o'clock. And then I messaged you, I think around 10. And that was it. I just went about my day. Like it was just a regular Tuesday because it was. And I was like, I mean, I had spoken to you about this before because the last time I checked it and I was like, I can't deal with the mental stress. And so I'll just let you know.
That's the
like,
difficult part actually to check the status of the decision on the portal.
Yeah. So I was like, I'll just let you know. So I messaged you being like, oh, I got an email. Can you like check? And honestly, in my head, I thought it was going to be an email about biometrics because I'd only gotten one email before that. And that was the fact that they had received the application and nothing else. So I was like, okay, maybe biometrics.
Honestly, I personally also waited until evening to check it because it's not difficult. It's not easy to actually, do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what happened?
But yeah, I just went about my day. I was kind of like, oh my God, what is it going to be? But at the same time, I wasn't, because I was like, either ways, what can I do? Nothing. So like, I can either freak out about it, I can either like panic about it, or I can just be like, whatever happens, happens. Like it's already done. So like, I may as well just relax, take a deep breath. But I also believe like as much as strategic positioning and, being absolutely clear about your intentions, about, everything, like even if you think that, bringing up the past is causing you emotional trauma, whatever it is, as much as that is important to do in your file, I also believe that belief plays a huge part. Like a lot of the times people are like, something is against me, it's not working out, somebody doesn't want me to succeed. No, that's not true. Like you absolutely need to have that belief to some extent that like, yeah, you know what, the impossible can happen and nothing is impossible. So like if others can do it, why can't I? There's plenty of stories online.
Got it.
And this is just to be another story at some point. But it's at some point there, it does come down to like belief also. So I personally think it's a bit of both. That's why I was like, I mean, I did have expectations, but I also didn't, because I kind of just like, it's out of my hands. Like I did my best.
Absolutely. So how was your reaction after hearing the news ultimately?
I cried. I absolutely wailed. And also I had like immense gratitude. Just gratitude like I've never felt before. Because also like, at some point you're like, okay, I do need help. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. That's actually really great, because that shows that you genuinely think that you can learn from others.
Absolutely.
So that was one. And the fact that I found you and you turned out to be helpful and genuine and all of those things after having been in a vulnerable situation, that adds a layer of gratitude. And then, yeah, it's just like the feeling of it's so great that you don't know what else to say and what else to feel. And the only way to express that is crying, because it's a literal release, and just gratitude, because being grateful is the thing, the biggest thing.
Absolutely. You being an applicant, it's very natural. But
Yeah.
I also cry, after looking at the decision. I also get emotional. So I can
Yeah.
understand. I can relate to you. You have dealt with the other consultancies as well in the past. So, what do you think we have done differently? At least one or two things which helped you, or which helped to, satisfy the office ultimately. So, you may have learned through your experience, because you have dealt with a lot of consultants already. So, anything from your experience, if you can share, can help the other applicants also to, take precautions accordingly.
Okay, so one thing that actually was passed on to me through my father, because like I said, people around me are working in the legal field, is always keep your correspondences in place, always. Even if you think it's not necessary, I might not need it later on, don't misplace emails. Always make sure to color code all of your documents, and have everything ready. If you want to do that, and you can do it on Google Drive or Dropbox, even on iCloud, or a external hard drive, or even a file on your PC or laptop or whatever. But make sure that all of your documents are in place. Always mention names correctly, so that you don't get confused about what's what. And be really honest. That is one thing that I would say, is not just with your application but also with yourself. Because the visa officers are trained to read between the lines, and you might think that I can do this and I can do that and
Well said. Yeah.
whatever, but energy plays a huge role, I believe that. And so they are trained to see, okay, what exactly is this saying? And so you might think that you're explaining it in one way, but they're trained to look at it in 20 different ways. And so you have to be absolutely clear first with yourself, and then you have to articulate it in the same way. You have to write it down in the same way, which is abundantly clear. It cannot have a hidden meaning. What is in front of you is what it is. You have to be that clear. That level of clarity has to be there, because now they've also switched to an AI, and AI itself can also figure out what something is saying and what something is trying to hint at without actually saying it. So you have to be very, very clear. And like I said, have all of your documents. Even if you think that it's something minute, it might be what changes it in your favor. In my case, I found that email between my boss and I, and I believe that that's what kind of would have changed it in their mind. Even though my intention was never relocation, because of other people's shortcomings and misdemeanors, they'd have to be vigilant. That's just part of the job.
Yep.
That's literally their job.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that they have anything against you. It doesn't mean that the world is against you. It doesn't mean that your life is ruined. Absolutely not. Shah Rukh Khan was detained. He was not allowed entry into America, and he's Shah Rukh Khan. So a lot of people have been through this. Katy Perry is not allowed in China because of some song lyrics. It happens to the best of us. It's nothing to fret over. Remember that even if it's a visa officer, it's a human being.
Yeah.
All they're looking for is clarity. That's why they say, I'm not convinced. So your job is to convince them. It's like going for a job interview. It's nothing more than that.
Yeah.
Another thing that I will say is this kind of changed my mindset. Is my dad mentioned to me that, stop putting this thing and these people on a pedestal. You're on the pedestal. If you put things on a place greater than you, you'll always be chasing. You don't chase.
Yeah.
If it's for you, it'll happen. If it's not, it is what it is. Life moves on. But don't put things outside of you, as in don't put them like above you. Don't do that.
Yeah.
It's just a thing. It's fine, you know? And so that kind of changed my mindset. And I think that kind of helped the second time around. And another thing that I will say is like, the way that we presented my file, it was so well organized. I feel like organization is a huge part of it. You have to be organized because a cluttered mind is exactly what it's going to look like on the outside. Your whole application is also going to look cluttered.
Yep.
And it's going to look like it's all over the place. And the visa officer is just going to be like, yeah, this person doesn't know what they want. You know, so it kind of comes across as like this is an escape. And I don't actually know what I want, but like I'm just going to be a child having a tantrum. And I just want to cry for what I want right now, but it might not be what I actually want. So organization is a huge one. And yeah, just I feel like once you have clarity of mind, things fall into place. And I know that sounds kind of witchcrafty or whatever it is. It's not. It's just how life is. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to be organized. You have to have that clarity. Okay, this is how it is. This is how it's looking right now. How can I turn it around in my favor? Instead of being like, oh my God, what's going to happen and freaking out and panicking. That's not helping you. Clearly, it hasn't. However long it's been that you've been trying. So you have to have that. You have to relax. You have to take a deep breath. It's not the end of the world. You know, it can happen. It has happened for many. It can happen for anybody. Nobody's against anyone.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a process. It's just bureaucratic process. And yeah, like sometimes the bureaucratic system can feel like it's unfair. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. You know, it's just what it is. Once you start looking at it that way, once you start giving everything like a neutral meaning, you kind of start having that clarity and you kind of start having those ideas and those strategies. Okay, this is how I can proceed. This is what I can do better. This might be where I was lacking before. And how can I turn that around in my favor now? You know, how can I explain that better where it looks like a strength looking back? Because a lot of the times, you know, visa consultants asked me, they were like, you know, you left it and it looks like this and you don't look like a genuine student, etc., etc. Now, that might be your opinion and you're entitled to your opinion. That's fine. That's not for me to fight or to argue about.
Have somebody said it to you? Because obviously, you know, you had...
It has. Yes, it has. Somebody has. Actually, multiple people have. Visa consultants and, you know, immigration lawyers and all that. And I could have had a tantrum. I could have cried. I could have been like, it hurts me. And maybe it did. Looking back, I genuinely cannot remember if it did or didn't. But it's not just...
Yeah, I'm sorry. Were you also expecting when you came to meet us? Were you also expecting that we would probably raise this? That, you know?
No, I wasn't.
I
wasn't, because I genuinely entered this whole experience with no expectations in the best way possible. So it was more of just, okay, let me present my case and then see what can be done, if anything at all. So it was more just open-ended. And I was, my expectations were none and also everything. So it was like a complete picture of like what can or can't happen. And I was open to all of it. But if someone does say like, you know, you've tried so many times, it's not going to happen, etc., 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 you can either believe them, and if you believe them, just quit. You know, just quit now. Then stop thinking about it. Just move on with your life. Do something else. If you can't stop thinking about it, you need to again get really honest. Why is that? Yeah. So, and then if someone does say like, you know, if a visa officer also questions ki you had like lots of gaps and you've not completed your education, or you've completed it but you've switched multiple times, you don't seem genuine, you seem just like someone who wants to, you know, move around and etc. You can sit and sulk, you can feel bad. I did that once upon a time. I don't anymore, because like I said, you have to be very clear and you need to be like, okay, this might look like a weakness, but how does this reflect my strengths? And that's where you need to be honest with yourself. So the way that I see it is, if someone was to say to me now that, you know, you've left multiple times, so you have a string of like leaving stuff in the middle. So like who's to say that you won't do it again? The way that I see it is, I don't see that as like me leaving anything. That I see it as perseverance. I tried everything in my power to make it work.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, for forces outside of my control, it wasn't meant to happen.
Yeah. So
Now that's not me to figure out why it didn't happen. It just didn't. But I still persevered. I made sure I wrote the emails. I tried to get the help. I tried to go study again. I did freelance. I got a job. I did this. I did that. Whatever. I was doing stuff throughout. So when you look at the big picture,
yeah,
it's perseverance that you see. You don't see like failure, because
absolutely.
failure isn't even true. Like it's either a blessing or a lesson. Either ways, you're growing.
Yeah.
So that's just the way that I like seeing it. That's, again, it's perspective. Like, you can either sit and sulk and feel bad about yourself, or you can be like, okay, how do I make this work in my favor?
Absolutely, and your efforts that you did after after even going through those refusals and everything, your efforts positively moving towards the fashion photography and graphic, and you continued doing it, and
Yeah.
it really helped to actually counter or explain better to counter that generalized opinion which you said that officer may have, that you left and they would just generalize it. But because of your efforts, we were able to put it across that no, you are different. Your circumstances were different. You did try. You were a bona fide student.
Yeah.
Anyways, at the very end, I'm very happy that eventually it happened. And though it took a lot, but yes, I'm very happy. And I presume your family must be really happy and proud of everything. And I wish you all the very best that you have
Thank you.
coming
Thank you
forward.
so much.
And I wish you very best further in your career. And all the very
Thank
best.
you so much.
Would you
Thank
like
you
to
for
say
your
anything
help. Like,
before we end this?
yeah, I would like to say thank you so much for your help. Like, I genuinely believe without your help, probably would not have happened. Probably not, because I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses. And I think that was very complimentary once I got in touch with you. And if anyone out there is like looking for help, I would definitely recommend them coming to you, especially if they're any way similar to like what I went through. Obviously, it's not going to be the complete
Yeah.
same situation, but refusal or like anything, it can be worked out. Like, I would highly recommend people reach out to you. Highly recommend.
All right. Thank you very much for taking time to share that feedback and sharing your journey with us. I hope a lot of people would learn from this experience
Yeah,
and
me too.
while they're pursuing their aspirations. Again, thank you very much, and I wish you all the best
Thank
for your
you.
life.
Thank you. Thank you.